Embark on a thrilling journey back to the medieval ages. On TopThangs, we're distilling complex history into bite-sized, engaging content. Stay tuned, subscribe, and dive into the past with us. In the heart of the medieval ages, a series of religious wars raged across continents. It was an era marked by unyielding faith, enthusiastic fervor, and ceaseless battles. This was the period of the Crusades. The unprecedented launch of the First Crusade was dictated in 1095 by the religious figurehead Pope Urban II. His intent was to seize control of the greatly revered Holy Land of Jerusalem from the ruling Muslims. In response to his impassioned call, thousands of knights in shining armor alongside common peasants courageously answered, setting forth on an arduous journey spanning thousands of miles. Their path led them from the remotest corners of Europe to the scorching sands of the Middle East. These brave men and women were christened as the Crusaders, a title they wore with valor and honor. Their journey was fraught with insurmountable challenges: the gnawing pang of starvation, the creeping onset of diseases, and the horror of grueling warfare. Yet their spirit remained unbroken. The of eternal salvation and their unyielding faith became their beacon in the darkest of times, fanning the embers of their perseverance. In the year 1099, their efforts culminated in a monumental victory, capturing the city of Jerusalem. However, the taste of triumph was fleeting. Over the ensuing 2 centuries, numerous crusades were initiated, each met with varying degrees of success. The control of the Holy Land oscillated between different powers, forever altering the course of history. The final crusades concluded in the late 13th century, but their profound influence resonated through the ages. They left an indelible mark on the relationship between the Christian and Muslim world that transcended centuries. Their reverberations continue to echo in the modern dialogue of faith and conflict. Join us next time as we delve deeper into the far-reaching implications of these holy. Remember, history is not just about facts and dates, it's about unraveling the human narrative, understanding the victories and defeats that have shaped the world we inhabit today. Continue your exploratory journey with us on TopThangs. Following the era of the Crusades, another major political milestone occurred in the medieval ages, setting the course for what we know today as constitutional democracy. This major event took place in the year 1215, in a meadow at Runnymede, near London. In this location, King John of England, under the immense pressure exerted by his defiant barons, reluctantly put his royal seal on a document that would be later known as the Magna Carta, also referred to as the Great Charter. This pivotal document was not the product of benevolence or goodwill, but was rather a desperate and grudging attempt to prevent a looming civil war. The barons, exasperated by King John's capricious rule and exorbitant taxation, demanded the establishment of a system of governance that would effectively put a check on the king's absolute power. The Magna Carta, as such, was a form of negotiated armistice, but its influence extended beyond immediate circumstances. Comprised 63 clauses, a good number of which safeguarded the rights of the barons and the church, put a cap on the king's powers of levying taxes, and importantly, assured the right to a fair trial for all free men. Despite the fact that its immediate impact was somewhat limited and civil war broke out not long after, the true significance of the Magna Carta lay in its lasting legacy. It was the seminal step, albeit an unsure one, in the direction of constitutional law. It established the crucial principle that even a monarch was not above the law, laying down a fundamental precept that would be further developed, expanded, and refined over the course of centuries. This historic document is viewed as a foundational pillar of liberty and democracy. Echoes of its principles can be found in the United States Constitution and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Images of these documents. Despite being a product of a time of chaos and conflict, the Magna Carta turned into a shining beacon of hope for future generations, signaling the possibility of fairness and justice in governance. It's evident that as we deeper into the annals of history, we uncover the intricate threads that interweave to form the intricate tapestry of human civilization. Join us as we continue to unravel these fascinating narratives of our past on TopThangs. From the realm of power and law, we now move to a more somber chapter in medieval history. The year is 1347, a year of darkness and despair for Europe. This is the dawn of the Black Death era, a period branded by the terrifying bubonic plague. An unforgiving pandemic, it stands as one of the most destructive events humanity has ever encountered. This horrific disease, thought to have originated from the distant lands of Asia, found its way into Europe by means of trading vessels. Fleas residing on black rats that infested these ships were the carriers of the lethal bacterium Yersinia pestis. With an unyielding speed, the plague dispersed, causing symptoms such as high fever, chills, and painful swollen lymph nodes or buboes. Mortality rate was an alarming 50 to 60%. In less than 5 years, it razed Europe's population, transforming bustling towns into ghostly shells. The devastation didn't stop at the loss of lives. The Black Death also left profound socio-economic imprints. With the workforce dwindling, the surviving peasants found themselves in a position to demand higher wages. This led to social agitation, and ultimately played a crucial role in the downfall of feudalism. The church faced its own crisis, as believers sought answers for the calamity that had befallen them. This discourse gave rise to mystic and heretic movements, which were the precursors for the later religious upheavals. The Black Death might have been a bleak period in history, but it also precipitated significant shifts in society, economics, and religion. Even in the face of such adversity, mankind showed resilience, adaptability, and evolution. In the darkest of times, we found hope and courage, leaving us with precious lessons about resilience and transformation. Join us as we continue to explore the fascinating narratives of our past on TopThangs. From the bleak aftermath of the Black Death, we now transition to another turbulent episode in the medieval tapestry, the Crusades. We step back to 1095, when Pope Urban II called for the First Crusade. Initiated by the Latin Church, the Crusades were more than just religious wars. They held a dual purpose, a mission of reclaiming the Holy Land from Islamic rule, and a political strategy cloaked in spiritual fervor. Their inception signified a seismic shift in the European landscape, inserting religion into the political sphere. Despite being a series of wars, the Crusades spanned 2 centuries. These of intense conflict were punctuated by moments of uneasy peace, the quiet before the storm. The Crusades were a complex mosaic of religious fervor, political ambition, and economic motivations that forever altered the course of human history. First launched by Pope Urban II, the inaugural crusade was considered a success. It resulted in the establishment of 4 crusader states in the Middle East. The following crusades yielded less fruit, their outcomes often marred by disaster and disillusionment. Perhaps the most infamous chapter in the Crusades was the Fourth Crusade. Originally aimed at Jerusalem, the Crusaders ended up sacking the Christian city of Constantinople. This diversion led to a deep schism within Christianity itself, causing irreparable damage to the of Christendom. But the Crusades were not just about conflict, they also had a transformative effect on society. They stimulated trade between the East and West, leading to the growth of towns and cities, and marking the beginning of the end of feudalism. Moreover, they ushered in an era of intellectual growth. As knowledge and culture from the East seeped into Europe, they set the stage for the Renaissance. Yet the Crusades also left a legacy of religious hatred and conflict, the reverberations of which persist today. Despite their contentious history, the Crusades were undeniably a pivotal point in human history. Join us next as we delve into the depths of the medieval ages, unraveling the complex threads that have woven the fabric of our present society. Stay tuned on TopThangs! From the tumultuous world of religious wars, we now move to an event of immense significance in Western democracy. We're looking at the year 1215, a time of political turmoil and civil discord in England. The Magna Carta, a pivotal document, took its form during this period. King John, infamous for his harsh rule and excessive taxation, was challenged by a band of defiant barons at Runnymede. This confrontation led to the birth of the Magna Carta. Though initially intended to safeguard the interests of barons, it eventually became the cornerstone of democratic values that we cherish today. The Carta, translating to Great Charter, emerged as a resolution to a political crisis, but turned into something far-reaching. It came to represent the concept of rule of law. The revolutionary idea that everyone, including the king, was subject to the law was groundbreaking. The Magna Carta also introduced the principle of habeas corpus, providing protection against wrongful imprisonment. It went on to greatly shape constitutions and legal systems across the globe. However, the Magna Carta didn't have immediate success. King John, feeling coerced, signed the document but soon attempted to revoke it, triggering the First Barons' War. Its principles only started to gain traction under his successor, King Henry III when it was reissued. So the Magna Carta, born in the fields of Runnymede, set the groundwork for human rights and democracy that continue to evolve. This beacon from the medieval past guides our path towards a better future. As we continue our journey through the medieval ages, we'll see how these events have shaped our world. Stay tuned on TopThangs for more. From the birth of democracy, we now turn our attention to a pivotal chapter that has significantly shaped the course of world history. We are referring to the noteworthy crusades that symbolize the intersection of faith, power, and politics, a sequence of holy wars that spanned over centuries. These were religious initiated and propelled by the Christian states of Europe, a testament to their zealous faith and a demonstration of their military prowess. The objective of these wars was crystal clear: to regain control of the Holy Land, Jerusalem, from the Muslim rule. The First Crusade was instigated by Pope Urban II in 1095, a direct counteraction to the expansion of the Seljuk Turks into the region of Anatolia. The Pope's clarion call for arms was heeded by a vast populace of knights and peasants alike. The motivation driving them was a blend of unshakable faith, the enticement of adventure, and the tantalizing prospect of accumulating wealth. Over the course of the next 200 years, an array of crusades were declared, each with its unique motivations and outcomes. The First Crusade was able to fulfill its intent by capturing Jerusalem in 1099, but the subsequent crusades were marred by varying degrees of failure. The Crusades left a deep and enduring impact on the socio-political landscape of Europe and Middle East. They facilitated a surge in trade relations between the East and West, triggering a cultural exchange that greatly benefited both civilizations. Nevertheless, they also gave rise to a legacy of religious animosity that echoes even in the current times. The Crusades, testimony to the immense power and influence wielded by the Church during the Middle Ages, continue to be a contentious segment in the annals of human history. As we journey further into the exploration of the medieval ages, we will persist in unraveling the events, ideas, and personalities that have left an indelible imprint on the world as we know it. Keep following TopThangs to expand your knowledge. From the battlefield, we now shift our focus to a different kind of war that humanity fought during the Middle Ages. This war was unseen, fought not against flesh and blood, but against an unseen enemy that lurked silently, carried by the wind and the waves, and on the backs of unsuspecting creatures. This unseen enemy unleashed an unimaginable horror: the Black Death. This was not a war of swords and shields, but a war against disease, a battle for survival against an enemy that knew no boundaries, no alliances, no treaties. This silent and invisible enemy originated in the far reaches of Asia, crawling and creeping its way along the vast stretches of the Silk Road, finding its way to Europe in the 14th century. Aided by its unwitting allies, the black rats that infested the merchant ships, it spread swiftly and mercilessly, bringing death and devastation to the shores of Europe. This was a war of attrition, a war of survival, and humanity was on the losing side. The disease struck with a ferocity and vengeance unknown to man, wiping out between 75–200 million people in Europe alone. This was no ordinary disease. It was a silent butcher, a faceless executioner, claiming between 30% to 60% of the continent's total population. The symptoms were cruel and swift: fever, chills, and the formation of painful swollen lymph nodes, ominously called buboes. This was not just a disease, it was a death sentence, a proclamation of doom that spared no one. The Black Death brought about profound social and economic changes. As death reaped its grim harvest, labor became scarce, leading to a rise in wages for those fortunate enough to survive. It also led to a profound questioning of faith, as people grappled with the harsh reality that the Church was powerless to protect them from this monstrous calamity. This was a crisis of faith, a crisis of belief, and a crisis of understanding. By the late 1350s, the pandemic began to recede, but the scars it left behind were indelible. The world had changed, and humanity had been fundamentally altered. The Black Death, a grim chapter from our past, serves as a stark reminder of the devastating impact of pandemics, a lesson that has found renewed relevance in our present times. It's a testament to the resilience of humanity, and a solemn reminder of our vulnerability in the face of nature's fury. Stay tuned to TopThangs as we continue our journey through the Middle Ages, uncovering the events that have shaped our world. From the ashes of the Black Death a new challenge arose in the heart of the Middle Ages, a divisive rift that would forever change the course of Christian history. This was not a physical war, but a battle fought on the grounds of faith and ideology. Welcome, dear audience, to the 14th century, to the historic event known as the Great Schism. This Great Schism, alternatively referred to as the Western Schism or the Papal Schism, signified a deep-seated division within the Catholic Church. This split lasted for nearly 4 decades, from 1378 to 1417, a tumultuous period marked by political and religious upheaval. It was a time of great tension, a time when 2 men claimed to be the legitimate pope. The church was divided and the Christian world was thrown into an intense state of unrest. However, this divide was not brought about by differing theological perspectives, but rather a struggle for power and control. Post the death of Pope Gregory II in 1378, Pope Urban VI, an Italian, was appointed by the cardinals. A group of dissenting cardinals, however, unhappy with Urban II's rule, elected a competitor, Clement VII, who established his papal court in Avignon, France. Following event, there was a period of some 40 years where there were multiple claimants to the papal throne at times. Nations across Europe were torn apart, with their loyalties divided between different popes. This division led to a spiritual crisis amongst the people, breeding confusion and disillusionment. It was a time of deep uncertainty, and the church's spiritual authority was significantly weakened. The schism ultimately concluded in 1417 at the Council of Constance, where a new pope, Martin V, was elected. This decision brought the divided church back together and reinstated unity in Christendom. However, the schism had lasting implications. It revealed the political underbelly of the papacy and undermined the church's moral authority. This laid the foundation for the subsequent Protestant Reformation, a critical event that drastically changed the faith. The Great Schism, undoubtedly a significant turning point in religious history, stands as a stark testament to the sheer power of belief and the lengths individuals will go to defend their convictions. Join us next time on Top Thangs as we continue our journey through the captivating history of the Middle Ages.